T+2 hours post-procedure guide to recover. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our colonoscopy preparation podcast series. I'm your host, Bimal Maharzan. This is the T+2 hours post-procedure episode. You have made it through your colonoscopy, and now it's crucial to focus on your recovery and the steps that you can take to ensure the best possible outcomes. Our information is informed by latest research and clinical guidance on post-procedure care. We combine insights from experienced patients to provide you comprehensive guide on what to expect and how to care for yourself after a colonoscopy. In this episode, we'll explore the typical recovery timeline, what you can do to aid your recovery. We will cover everything from first post-procedure meal to when you can resume normal activities and work. Understanding these aspects is key to a smooth recovery. And remember, each episode in our series is accompanied by a user guide and actionable checklist, which you can find linked in the show notes. These resources are designed to help you track your recovery progress and ensure you don't miss any critical steps. Today, we are particularly focused on guiding you through the initial hours and days after your procedure. We will discuss how to manage any immediate symptoms and when and how to reintroduce different foods and activities, and how to understand and respond to your body's signals. Please remember, while our podcast aims to provide valuable information, we are not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always follow up with your healthcare for personalized personal care, particularly if you experience any unusual symptoms or complications. And prepare to take notes as we dive into essential aspects of post-procedure care, whether you are dealing with chronic conditions or looking for the best ways to return to your daily life. This episode will provide you with the knowledge and tools you need. And as usual, let's follow a Q&A format so that it's easier for you to follow, complement, and recollect the information we have given here. And the question is about general recovery, and here is the question. How long will it take to recover fully from a colonoscopy? And are there any signs that indicate that I should seek medical advice? Most patients recover from the effects of colonoscopy and the sedation used within 24 to 48 hours. During this time, it's important to monitor your body for any signs of complications. If you experience severe abdominal pain, fever, bloody stool, or dizziness, these are signs that you should seek immediate medical advice. These symptoms should include potential complications such as perforations or infections, which, while are rare, will require prompt attention. And next question is about when can I start eating my normal diet? Are there specific foods I should avoid in the first 24 hours? You can generally start eating your normal diet soon after colonoscopy, but it's wise to begin with something light and easy to digest. In the first 24 hours, avoid heavy, greasy, or highly seasoned foods to minimize stress on your digestive system. Foods such as soups, salads, soft cooked eggs are excellent choices to ease your digestive tract back into normal function. And if you are from the South Asian part of the world, like I am from, I feel khichdi is one of the best options. For those of you who are unaware of khichdi, it's made with lentils, some vegetables, and dals, and pressure cooked, which becomes soft, and it has a lot of water content, which is very easy to digest. So the combination of lentils and rice, it provides all the nine amino acids required and easy to digest as well. So that's what I would recommend people having if you know how to make that one. So, so that's the first meal I had. So following up with the meal. So the specific question is about the first meal recommendations. What is the first meal I should eat post procedure? Should it be light or I can eat a full meal? Again, we recommend something light, not too filling. A good option might be a broth-based soup with noodles or a simple sandwich with the mild ingredients. The goal is to reintroduce food to your system really gently. If you feel good after this light meal and don't experience any adverse symptoms, you can gradually start reintroducing more substantial food. Again, I chose not to eat meat because it's difficult to digest. But again, I chose to eat the khichdi and also oatmeal, which is very easy to digest. And I didn't eat a lot of quantity. I started eating little by little. But this is the complication that I want to share. Post procedure, I didn't have appetite for 7 weeks, 7 days or weeks. I couldn't eat, so I lost a lot of weight, and that's one of the reasons why I'm preparing this, because I wish I had this recovery guide about what to do, what not to do. I wish I was aware that if I was losing weight, I should be calling my doctor really soon. And also, I wish I had given preemptive advice about what to do in case I didn't have appetite to eat. So today, I hope you, as a listener who have gone through colonoscopy, or if your friends or family members going to colonoscopy, please remind them that what are things they need to do to recover, or if they need additional help, they can always seek out. It's always better to seek out help rather than suffer silently. Unfortunately, that's what happened to me, and I wish nobody has to go suffer silently. Question about alcohol consumption. The question is, when can I start drinking alcohol again? Should I limit the quantity or the type of alcohol? As for alcohol, it's better in life to avoid alcohol at all costs, or if you must drink, drink socially. Again, alcohol has a huge impact on the health, wellness, and longevity and health spans of people. But again, there are people who enjoy alcohol, but then the, after the colonoscopy, it's best to wait at least 24 hours before drinking any alcohol after colonoscopy. This is due to the lingering effects of sedation and the potential for alcohol to cause dehydration and irritations to the digestive system. When you start drinking again, if you must again, with a small amount, with a low alcohol quantity, and see how the body reacts. And again, always drink responsibly. Now, I want to talk about one thing which I wish I had been introduced to me when after the colonoscopy was done, because I feel like it's the best time to talk and act on this. And the thing that I'm going to talk about is gut health and gut microbiome. So after everything is cleansed inside the body, your colon is empty. I believe it's an opportunity to populate the gut microbiome with more diverse food, food, and more diverse gut microbiota. I think that's the reason why I'm bringing this topic right now, because it's the best time to, I feel, that it repopulate the gut microbiome because it's cleansed. So focusing on the crucial aspect of gut health and gut microbiome restoration, after a colonoscopy, your gut microbiome can be significantly altered due to the bowel cleansing process. And now understanding how to support and replenish these vital bacteria is key to your overall health. And first question is, what happens to my gut microbiome after the colon is cleansed, and how can I support its recovery? Firstly, let's discuss what happens to your gut microbiome after it has been cleansed. The bowel preparation for a colonoscopy typically results in reduction of microbial diversity. and temporary imbalance of the gut flora. This can affect digestion and immune functions temporarily. So, supporting your gut's recovery begins with reintroducing a variety of nutrients that promote the growth of beneficial bacteria. And obviously, research suggests that a diverse rich in fiber, prebiotics, and fermented foods that can help restore gut microbiome diversity more quickly. So incorporating foods such as bananas, onions, garlics, yogurts, sauerkrauts, kimchis, and any other fermented food with high fiber will be really beneficial. Second is probiotic introductions. Is it a good time to reintroduce probiotics, and are there specific strains of products that you recommend? Populating gut microbiome. So let's consider the reintroduction of probiotics. So post colonoscopy is an excellent time to reintroduce probiotics because the gut flora is most receptive to new bacteria. Introducing probiotics can help your gut microbiome speed up recovery. Probiotics can help restore the balance of good bacteria, reducing the risk of gastrointestinal infections and improving digestions. For example, probiotics foods such as kefir, sauerkraut, probiotic supplements containing lactobacillus bifidobacterium are highly effective. Again, clinical trials, include those in the American Journal of Gastroenterology, have demonstrated that probiotics can significantly reduce the recovery time and improves the gut bacterial diversity post-procedure. Now, let's talk about repopulating gut microbiome. How long does it take? The question is, how long does it take to repopulate the gut microbiome? Are there dietary choices that can accelerate this process? And of course, the timeline can vary, but with the right dietary choices, significant repopulation can occur within a few days to a week, and it may take weeks after the procedure. Again, high fiber food, prebiotics, fermented food can play a crucial role in this process. Examples: consuming a high fiber rich diet with whole grains, legumes, vegetables, along with probiotic foods can expedite this. And gut microbiome is a solution to loss of the gastrointestinal problems and loss of chronic diseases problems. There are getting more and more research that it not only impacts the GI health, but also impact the mental health. It impacts the neurodegenerative diseases, it impacts the metabolic health, and so on. So we'll talk about gut microbiome in detail in the future. For now, suffice to say that post colonoscopy cleanse, it's an opportunity to repopulate the gut microbiome diversity in your colon so that it helps to recover, prevent, and manage your GI issues for long term. And I really wish somebody had talked to me about gut microbiome. It was through my personal quest and through my investigations I learned about gut microbiome. And since then, I have been doing everything that is possible. And I will talk about this in future. But for now, the five pillar points are: number one is fiber, fermented food, healthy fats, hydration, exercise. And I use body as a machine framework and not only think about the the reaction that happens, such as output, stool, the symptoms. Those are the outputs, but I also take care of the input, which is food, hydration, chewing, and the processing part, such as exercises, meditations, stress-free. How long do I sit and stand, walk, so many other variables. And output, I measure my poop, urine, and the symptoms so that I take care of the holistic whole body, and I use the body as a machine framework, and again, and use the five pillars of those repopulating gut microbiome. And I'll talk about that in future more in detail, more actionable way. But for now, I think suffice to say that it's important to repopulate your gut microbiome, and it's the best time. I wish somebody had told me that, and now I'm telling you that it's the best time from my experience. So please follow the advice. And if you have more questions and you need more tailored advice, you can always, you're now empowered and educated to ask categorically intelligent questions to your healthcare provider. Now let's talk about additional post-procedure care. As we navigate the post-procedure phase of colonoscopy recovery, it's essential to understand how to carefully resume your daily activity. We will recover everything from physical activity to medication management, symptom monitoring, and follow-up appointments. Let's ensure that you take right steps to recover safely and effectively. Let me answer about physical activity. The question is, when can I resume physical activities such as exercise, work, or lifting heavy objects? Generally, you should avoid strenuous activities for at least 24 hours to prevent any complications, such as bleeding from the biopsy site. Light working is extremely good, but hold off on the heavy lifting or vigorous exercise until you have done or you have had a chance to discuss with your doctor or at your follow-up appointment. So what I did was I didn't do heavy exercise. I walked and I used to do yoga, I used to run, so I didn't do any of those two, but just gentle walk. That's what I did. And also the clinical guidelines suggest that patients can usually return to work and normal activities the next day unless they are experiencing unusual symptoms or have a job that requires heavy physical labor. So I am an entrepreneur, I'm an engineer and a software, my industry is software industry. I didn't have to do any heavy lifting or strenuous work, but I have to sit all day long. But as I told you again, I had to take the entire week off. The reason why I had to take the entire week was I was too weak. The reason why I was too weak was I didn't have the appetite to eat at all. And looking back, I don't know it's a adverse reaction to the sedatives or anything, but I wish I had talked to my doctor about these problems. And again, the reason why as a patient is overwhelmed to talk to a doctor is I just went through that procedure and I didn't want to talk to any doctor, right? That kind of a mindset, at least I had that kind of mindset. I was like, let me just sleep through this and recover myself. I don't know whether it's the right thing to do or wrong thing to do, but certainly another calculations such as the cost also comes in. I think this kind of information, 90 to 95% of the information can be achieved through self-education instead of asking the clinicians or doctors because A, it's difficult to get the appointment. B, even if you get the appointment, is always rushed through conversation. And during the rush through conversation, it's really difficult to ask for the step-by-step instructions of it. And third, sometimes it's difficult for the healthcare provider to advise you on the nutrition, hydrations, and so on category, which I learned later was most of the doctors do not get any training on nutrition during their medical training, which blew my mind. So, in order to recover quickly, I think it's best to get a self-education, be a personal investigator on your own, and take responsibility to recover quickly. And that's the reason why we are empowering you with this information. And especially so that you don't have to go through what I went through. And you have all the support necessary to be a stronger, healthier, and happier. Now let's move on to talk about medications. And the question here is, can I immediately resume my regular medications, especially for chronic conditions, or are there adjustments needed post-procedure? In general, you should be able to resume your regular medications immediately after the procedure. However, if you have chronic conditions or were instructed to stop certain medications before colonoscopy, you will need to confirm when to restart with your doctor. For example, if you take blood thinners, your doctor may provide specific instructions on when to resume these procedures to avoid any bleeding risk. According to post-procedure care research, adjustments in medications, timing and doses are often necessary, particularly for anticoagulants and insulin. So please talk to your doctor about this. Let me talk to you about some symptom monitoring. So what are the normal symptoms after a colonoscopy and which symptoms warrant contacting healthcare provider? So expect mild discomfort, bloating or gas, spotting or a small amount of blood in your first bowel movement post-procedure is common, especially if biopsies were taken or polyps removed. But however, warning signs are severe abdominal pain, heavy bleeding, fever, or dizziness are not normal and should prompt an immediate call to your healthcare provider. Studies have shown that 1% of the colonoscopies result in serious complications, but prompt response to severe symptoms can prevent major health issues. So again, there are also talk about colonoscopy being overprescribed because again, it's a function of the incentives and unfortunately, United States, the healthcare is also measured through revenue and how much a clinic or a doctor generates revenue in for that hospital. Therefore, the quickest way of generating revenue is to do procedure. Therefore, there is also criticism that the colonoscopy are overprescribed for people who don't need it, who don't have the risk, and also for the people who colonoscopy is kind of a useless if they are in the later stage of life and so on. So definitely there are criticisms on this part, and sometimes it's important for as a patient to do that risk benefit analysis. Obviously, if you are a high risk patient person because of the various factors such as genetic or bleeding or any other preconditions, then obviously benefits outweigh the risk. But sometimes you're young, there's no family history, there's no genetic history, then do you really have to evaluate whether is it a temporary discomfort? Are there any other safer ways of evaluating whether colonoscopy is necessary or not? Generally, for my case, I generally thought colonoscopy was not necessary. I did it because of the fear of the word cancer. I think sometimes fear mongering is also done in the health systems because, again, it's a structural stability of focusing on incentives and the revenue. I wish that wasn't the case, but at the same time, I empathize with the providers who work in the systems or doctors who work in the systems. It's people focus on the incentives, what they are measured. And I have no qualms to the doctors, but at the same time, at the personal level, I feel I didn't have to go through a colonoscopy process because A, it was expensive, B, it was I had to week off, C, I didn't have the preconditions necessary. If at all, I wish I was told the following. Number one, hey, you are already doing everything that you are doing to alleviate your constipation problem and you are doing really well. This low iron level or ferritin level could be because of the lack of the iron rich food in rich food. Let's take this for eat the nutritious food rich in iron or take iron supplement for a month and so and redo our blood work and then confirm whether this is increasing or not. Because I was 35 and 35 is generally not the age to do the colonoscopy. Again, it's a risk and benefit analysis. I believe I had low risk, but only because the reason that I went through was because of two things. One, it's because of fear of the word cancer, and second, it had zero cost. So when I put in the equation zero cost, and also at that point of time, I didn't understand the risks of colonoscopy, because if you're fairly healthy, even 1% chance of perforation is quite risky, especially when there is no denominator of the benefit, right? So again, I'm pointing this out because for most people who have, 45 years, the screenings are super important for if there are polyps, if there are cancerous edemas, and so on, is still beneficial. Again, please do this risk benefit analysis, and you can input into this risk benefit variables the risks such as your diseases, your symptoms, your genetics, your family history, your medical history, and it benefits about, okay, diagnosis, treatment plans, quality of life, and so on. So only uh, you can make, or as a caregiver for your family member, you can help your family member to make that decision. If you are a provider or nurse or doctor, you can help your patient to make that decision. I think this decision should be made based on a conversation, and that conversation should be based on information, and that information based should be based on the science back and very practical ones. And obviously, health is one aspect, and there are, for most people, there is also concern about budget as well. So it's a complex analysis, and it's better to do this complex analysis with education than to do this make a judgment call. And that's why we are doing this colonoscopy preparation podcast series, and also another reason why we are building the GutSphere platform, so that it helps the GutSphere becomes co-pilot for every patient or caregiver or provider to provide that self-care and care navigation at the lowest possible cost, accessible anytime, anywhere, in the language that the patients, caregivers, and providers understand. After this short tangent, and to share about my personal experience and personal mental framework, we need to move on to the next section, which is follow-up appointments. The question is, when is my follow-up appointment, and what information will be discussed, especially concerning biopsy results if applicable? So your follow-up appointment is typically scheduled for a few weeks after the procedure, where any findings from biopsies will be discussed. This appointment is also your opportunity to address concerns about recovery and discuss long-term health planning, especially if polyps were removed or there were notable findings. So in my case, as far as I remember, my gastroenterologist who conducted the colonoscopy told me that he removed 3 polyps and also sent the polyp for the biopsy. And I had the follow-up call after, I think, 2 weeks. And during the follow-up call, I was shared that my polyps were benign, and there is nothing else to be done. So there is no inflammation. There is inflammation, or there is nothing wrong in the colonoscopy. And I was extremely lucky. Only the few benign polyps. That's what it was discussed, and said nothing was important. And the follow-up in-person appointment was not necessary. For example, I told you earlier as well, I did during the COVID era, in which there was more social distancing, and my follow-up appointment was virtual appointment, and that was convenient as well. Right? So if we're just about having a chat with a doctor, I don't think it's important to go to the doctor's office, travel, wait, and it's just feel like very unproductive. But just getting a call from a doctor, it was a telephonic call, it was not a video call. I wish there was a video call. Sometimes video calls are more helpful. So again, uh, that's what happened. After 2 weeks, I think 3 weeks, 2, 3 weeks, a telephone call from the doctor explaining the results, and my results were all okay. And then let's move on to more practical thing about driving and work. How soon after the procedure can a driver return to work, especially if my job involves physical labor or operate heavy machinery? As we have said earlier, you should not drive for at least 24 hours after procedure due to sedatives use. Ensure that you have arranged transportation home. We have included that multiple times in the checklist for T-7, T-3, T-1. We are repeating that so often so that you do not forget that. And the returning to work depends upon your general health, the nature of your job. If your work involves physical labor, you may need a few days off as recommended by a doctor. I understand that some people may not afford to take few days off. Maybe there are other financial ways to arrange for that. But again, if you are a heavy machinery worker, heavy lifting, heavy physical labor, I think it's important to take a few days off, unless you feel really strong and there is no other complications. Maybe depending on your doctor's advice, you can resume. Again, the minimum is 24 hours before engaging in activities that require full cognitive functions, such as driving or operating machinery, to ensure that sedatives have time to completely wear off. So let me talk about side effects of anesthesia. The question is, what are the common side effects of anesthesia and how long might they last? So you might experience drowsiness, minor memory lapses, or mood changes for a few hours post-procedure. Nausea and sore throat are also possible depending on the anesthesia used, but most side effects of anesthesia are short-lived, resolving within 24 to 48 hours after the anesthesia wears off. So generally, the modern anesthesics are generally safe, with side effects being very rare. However, factors such as age, medical history, and type of anesthesia can influence the side effect severity and duration, but adverse reactions are rare. Let's move on to long-term dietary changes. The question is, based on the findings of the colonoscopy, are there any long-term dietary changes you recommend for gut health or to prevent future issues? I hinted earlier about gut microbiome diversity is a solution to a lot of the GI issue problems. And I think diet plays a strong role in that part. And depending on the findings of a colonoscopy, such as presence of polyps or signs of inflammation, your doctor may recommend specific dietary changes. And obviously, high fiber diets are commonly recommended to enhance colon health and prevent future issues. This may increase the increased intake of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, and removing and avoiding foods such as processed foods, a lot of high fat foods, heavy to digest foods such as meat, and so on. Again, fermented food, fiber, healthy fats, proper hydration, and living stress-free, proper sleep, and exercises. So it's a whole person and holistic care that are required to, in addition to long-term dietary changes, and based on your budget, your preferences, your geography, your medical history, your age, and so on. In God's Fair's platform, we will help you find what works for you. But suffice to say that long-term dietary changes are required to, recover and also to avoid any more complications and GI issues. And a doctor will typically recommend that those dietary changes. And it's better to consult also with a nutritionist along with the doctor as well, because nutritionists will have better idea about the nutrition and dietary changes than typical doctor would do. So let's move on to emotional and psychological support. So it's common to feel emotional or anxious after a medical procedure. Are there resources or support groups you recommend for post-procedure emotional care? So it's normal to feel a range of emotions after a colonoscopy, from relief, that's what I felt, to anxiety, particularly if waiting for biopsy results or dealing with findings that require future and further intervention. So many hospitals and clinics offer access to counseling services or support groups. So there are online forums, patient advocacy groups can also provide community support and information. And that's one of the things that we want to provide in Godsphere platform is community support. And we will be building that feature in the future. For time being, obviously there are other platforms. I sometimes go into Reddit. There are Facebook groups, local, maybe there may be local. There are platforms such as Patient Like Me, or I recently discovered another called, I forgot the name of that. I'll I'll include it in the show notes if I can find it. So there are other support groups you can find it. There are always support group in your locality. So obviously your family members, your friend circle. I think research underscores the importance of emotional support in medical recovery, showing that patients who feel supported tend to experience a quicker return to their normal activities and better overall outcome. And let's talk more about recovery considerations for chronic conditions. So given the question is, given my chronic conditions, the diabetes, diseases, COPD, and are there specific post-procedure symptoms or recovery experiences I should anticipate? So I can say three things. One, symptoms to watch. Depending on the condition, you might experience heightened fatigue, respiratory discomfort, or cardiovascular stress post-procedure. For example, individuals with heart disease should monitor for any unusual chest pains or palpitations. Ensure continuous monitoring of vital signs as recommended by a healthcare provider and report any abnormal findings immediately. So if you're diabetes, continuous glucose monitoring. If you are heart disease or blood pressure patient, monitor your blood pressure multiple times and monitor. And if any other symptoms you can monitor, and if their severity arises, call up the phone and call immediately and help get the medical care that you need. So when can I resume medications for chronic conditions post colonoscopy, especially if adjustments were made for the procedure? I've mentioned earlier as well, typically you can resume your regular medications shortly after the procedure unless otherwise directed by a doctor. For medications related to blood thinning or diabetes management, specific instructions should be followed based on your recovery progress. For example, patient on insulin may need to adjust their doses based on our post-procedure eating and blood sugar levels. The dietary conditions recommendation for or restrictions post colonoscopy specific to my chronic conditions, low sodium for heart disease, low sugar for diabetes. Again, depending on your condition, you may need to follow a specific diet. And obviously, it's not just for short term. Post colonoscopy is also for long term. As you may have heard, we have food as a medicine trend is coming up, which is rightfully so. Exercise as a medication, lifestyle change as a as a medicine. So again, not just for the short-term colonoscopy care, it aligns well with the dietary adjustment post colonoscopy as well. So depending on your condition, you may need to follow a specific diet. For example, heart disease, a low sodium diet is advised. For diabetes, maintaining low sugar intake is crucial to avoid spikes in blood sugar levels. And talking about reintroduction of foods, again, gradually introduce regular foods and closely monitor how your body reacts. Your body avoid foods that are high in fat or fiber, really high fiber immediately following the procedure to prevent gastrointestinal distress. So appropriate dietary management can reduce recovery times and improve overall outcomes. Let me talk to you specifically about the chronic GI disorders such as IBD and IBS management. How should I manage symptoms of chronic GI disorders such as IBD or IBS after colon cleanse? When should reintroduction of regular foods be more cautious? Monitor for any flare-ups. Reintroduce foods slowly and in a controlled manner to gauge tolerances. You can begin with the low residue foods that are easy to digest and gradually work your way up to more fibrous foods as tolerated. Again, you have to be your personal investigator, a scientist of your own body. Slowly and gradually, you can experiment. It's like running an experiment. You have a hypothesis, and then you run an experiment. You gather data, and then and make a and move on to next step, whether the experiment was successful or failed, or whether it had a positive impact in your body or not. And you can collect all of those data and you can consult with your doctor about, okay, this is what's happening to me, this is what I did. For example, many people talk about for IBS, low FODMAP diet and the elimination diet. It's very important to be scientists of your own body, eliminate one thing at a time, and identify what are the trigger for the symptoms. And then when you meet your doctor, you can get additional information about that particular trigger, and the food can be a trigger for most people, and that's where you can reach to you can actually be very specific about what things to avoid and what doesn't cause you problems in general, right? Avoiding these triggers can immensely increase the quality of life. For example, I had chronic constipation, and chronic constipation is not a disease in itself; it's a symptom of many things, and it wasn't many diseases. For me, it was always been a low, weak in digestion, and then I experimented with a lot of food. Then I learned one thing: if I eat cheese and white flour, it causes constipation the very next day. I'll have very thick stool that will actually further worsen my fissure, my hemorrhoids. Then I will get a bright red bleeding the very next day. So for me, to avoid hemorrhoids and fissure and bleeding and any distress because of constipation, I will avoid cheese and white bread at all cost. And sometimes that happens is you are in a social circle and the easiest food to order is pizza and you eat pizza. Now so initially when I had a very severe chronic constipation, I made sure I ate prunes immediately after eating pizza, or I drink a lot of water. Now slowly my tolerance for the pizza has increased. Now, even if I eat pizza for just one meal, I don't get constipation the very next day. But what I make sure is I do not continue that eating pizza, white flour with uh, cheese, continuously many frequent meals. For example, I didn't eat burger for a very long time because burger with the white bread and the meat in it, and with a more processed meat and the cheese on top of that, that was like eating a poison to me. Therefore, I avoided for many years, and now I have my constipation is gone. My digestion has improved. My mental health has improved. Now, occasionally, because of social structure, and sometimes for convenience, and also sometimes for taste, because burgers do taste really good and the pizzas they're really good. I end up eating once in a while. But now, after 3 4 years of avoiding constipation, I think my stomach or my digestive system can handle that, but I make sure I do not eat that every day. Even if I eat that really every once in a month or once in a quarter or something like that. So again, this long-term management is absolutely important, and I reached to this condition through self-experimentation, being a pilot of my own health plan. And for this IBS and IBD, which is long-term chronic disease like chronic constipation, I think it's absolutely important for all the patients to be the scientists of their own body, be the be the pilot, and I obviously use all the resources as co-pilot. So doctor is a co-pilot, not a pilot. Yeah, Godsphere is a co-pilot, not a pilot. And what Godsphere or any health provider can do is make it easier for you to run those experiments safely, accurately, and you have all the information necessary to know what triggers for you, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And again, that has to align well with not only about the health, but also your preferences, your budget, and so on. So, however, in this case, especially after the colonoscopy recovery, if you have these IBS, IBD, and other GI issues, in addition to the information that I've given, it's very important to work closely with your gastroenterologist to tailor a diet, and obviously with a nutritionist as well, because nutritionists will know more about your doctor. Again, it's going to be costly to you, and based on your insurance and based on your finances, I think you can get support from gastroenterologist, nutritionist, and they can tailor your diet that supports your recovery while managing these conditions effectively. And let's move on to diabetes management. And the question is, for diabetes patients, how often should blood sugar levels be monitored post-procedure, especially after fasting and resuming normal diet? So again, these days for diabetes patient, there is continuous glucose monitoring. If not, you can actually if you don't have that, you can frequently monitor blood sugar levels, especially after fasting. And as you resume your regular diet, again, when you resume a regular diet, we don't want to recommend food that spikes the sugar level instantly. So not eating a simple carb, sugar, and so on. Again, about the medications, I think you need to coordinate with your healthcare provider about when to resume and potentially adjust doses of insulin or oral hypoglycemics. For example, you may need to lower your insulin doses immediately following procedure if you are not eating as much as, or if you experience reduced food intake. One specific question about insulin and oral hypoglycemics. What guidelines should I take or follow for adjusting insulin or oral hypoglycemic agents in the days following the colonoscopy? So if you are instructed to adjust or skip your insulin dose before colonoscopy, it's important to resume your regular schedule cautiously, monitor your blood sugar level closely, and adjust your insulin according to your current dietary intake and post-recovery state. And if you are a diabetic patient and you have been taking the monitoring for a while, you would know what your normal levels are, and obviously pick up the phone and talk to your doctor. Second, about oral hypoglycemics. Similar to insulin, you may need to adjust the doses of oral diabetic medications based on how soon you resume eating and type of food you consume. So we consult with your endocrinologist for specific instructions. For example, a diabetic patient, it might be necessary to use a reduced dose of insulin or oral hypoglycemics immediately following the procedure and adjust based on your blood sugar testing. And another concerns for patients with heart and blood pressure. The question is, should I monitor my blood pressure more frequently after the procedure, especially if I have hypertension or other heart conditions? Yeah, check your blood pressure more regularly than usual for first few days post-procedure, as fluctuations could occur due to physical stress of the procedure or from medications used during the process. So when in doubt, always discuss with your cardiologist whether any temporary adjustments to your blood pressure medications are needed, particularly if you experience any issues during the colonoscopy that could affect cardiovascular stability. Studies show that stress from medical procedures can temporarily elevate blood pressure, necessitating close monitoring in hypotensive patients. Like as I said, a little bit of anxiety and nervousness is common, but again, people with hypertension may respond to that stress differently than people who do not have that. And for that particular reason, they can have elevated blood pressure. And because to manage that, they may require some temporary medication or any other mechanisms to reduce that blood pressure. So, how about the kidney functions? And the question is, given my kidney conditions, are there specific hydration guidelines should I follow to recover support recovery and prevent dehydration? So patients with kidney disease should follow specific hydration guidelines to avoid overloading the kidneys. The goal is to stay well hydrated to help flush the system, but without causing fluid retention or electrolyte imbalance. So types of fluids. Prefer fluids that support kidney health and maintain electrolyte balance. Use isotonic solutions if recommended by your nephrologist and avoid drinks with high level of phosphates or potassium. Again, be the scientist of your own body, keep track of your fluid intake and output, and look for signs of any dehydrations or fluid overload, which can be critical for patients with compromised kidney function. And when in doubt, always consult with your specialist that you have been getting treatment from. How about liver disease considerations? How does a clean colon impact medication metabolism, especially in patients with liver diseases and other and are those adjustments necessary? As you know, liver plays a significant role in drug metabolism, and a clean colon can alter the absorption rates and efficacy of medications. This can affect how quickly drugs are processed and eliminated from the body. So now we are learning, as I told earlier, the gut microbiome. The gut helps to process the food absorption and also produce a lot of hormones. So after the cleanse, because of the change in the gut microbiome, it can impact the metabolism. So it's important to discuss potential dose adjustments with your hepatologist or pharmacist post colonoscopy, especially if your liver function is compromised. Monitoring live liver enzymes and drug levels may be necessary to ensure optimal medication management. So for patients taking medications metabolized through liver, such as warfarin or certain pain relievers, monitoring blood levels post-procedure can prevent complications from under or overdosing. How about neurological and muscular conditions? For patients with conditions such as MS or Parkinson's, are there specific considerations for resuming physical activity post-colonoscopy? For those living with neurological or muscular conditions, resuming physical activity post-colonoscopy requires careful consideration. Guideline for resuming activity. Start with light activities and gradually increase intensity based on your comfort and stability. It's essential to avoid strenuous activities until your doctor confirms it's safe. And specific considerations for patients with MS or Parkinson's. They might experience increased fatigue or motor function challenges after the procedure. Coordination with the physical therapist can help safely regain pre-procedure activity levels. Example, implementing a tailored exercise plan that includes stretching, light walking, and balance exercise can help maintain mobility without overstressing the body. So if you are consulting physiotherapists, they can definitely recommend you few poses or exercises. You're doing yoga, Pilates, that can also help the balance, mobility, strength, and flexibility. I think always starting from the low intensity and based on your feedback from your body and how you feel, gradually increasing the intensity of it may be really helpful. Again, if you have these neurological and muscular disorders or conditions, it's best to take advice from your healthcare team. Let me answer some question about anxiety and depression management. Post procedure, how I can manage feelings or anxiety or depression, especially if the anticipation of results is challenging. So if you're expecting any results, which, and again, we we react to different results differently, and some people, especially with the people with anxiety and depression conditions, may respond more negatively or more stressfully than the normal people. And those, obviously, the medications you're taking, the therapies you are taking, and you may continue, you should continue taking those. See, in addition to that, I think there are definitely techniques to manage anxiety and depression, and we have learned that mindful meditations help a lot, deep breathing exercise helps a lot, and engaging in supporting therapy can be beneficial. Connecting with support groups who share similar experience can also provide comfort and reassurance. And obviously, there are access to resources. You can ask your healthcare provider about mental health services and support groups offered to the hospital or your community. There are online resources, and virtual support meetings can also be a valuable tool. There are apps, the guided meditation apps and scheduled therapies that you can book a sessions using an app that can help manage anxiety and depression effectively during the recovery period. And now we know more about the, again, gut microbiome is a solution. The problem could be different. And we also know that increasing a gut microbiome can help in depression and anxiety management. Like all it is, all disease starts with the gut. I think improving gut microbiome can also really helpful. And that's the new kind of resource saying, which talk about gut-brain axis, and probably I can share more about that in the future. But for now, suffice to say that use all the resources that you can to manage post-colonoscopy, because it can fare a bit more, because people may, especially when you're anticipating a result taken during the biopsy, uh, it can be overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me to, okay, biopsy was taken, and again, the fear word cancer was spoken, and it's like, until the test result came in, what's the result is going to be, right? And I was fairly okay, but many people may react differently. So again, always helpful. My wife's support was really helpful. Being able to take a time off and take a rest was really helpful. Again, by that time, I had an inkling that everything is going to be fine. The reason why I had that inkling was I haven't had constipation. I haven't had blood in many months. And also, I was exercising. I was physically fit. I could run 12 miles and come back and do 1 hour intense power yoga. I was probably at the most peak physical fitness before I went to colonoscopy, and definitely post colonoscopy because of my weight loss, it declined, and it took me about almost a year to get 2 years to get my weight back, and now I started doing high intensity workout again. So again, it depends for everybody. So you can make a personal call, you can educate yourself, and we are here to help you with that. So let's move on to the autoimmune diseases and talk about symptoms, flare-ups. If I have autoimmune diseases, what signs of flare-ups should I be vigilant after or vigilant for after the procedure? Again, patients with autoimmune diseases need to be vigilant for any signs of flare-ups post-procedure. Keep a detailed symptom diary and monitor for any changes that deviate from your normal experience, such as increased pain, fatigue, or inflammatory responses. So you can take immediate action, contact your rheumatologist or healthcare provider if you notice signs of a flare-up, to adjust your treatment plan promptly. For an IBD patient, increased abdominal pain or changes in bowel habits post-colonoscopy should prompt an immediate consultation with your gastroenterologist. So as we conclude this discussion, remember that personalized care is a key to successful recovery. No two persons are the same. Every person is different. As is every person is different, the one person who stays with you 24/7 is you. That's the reason why the primary responsibility of recovery lies on you as a patient and the people around that, the caregiver, the providers, the apps, the GodSquare platform. All of them can be a co-pilot for you. So therefore, take up charge on this, and we promise you, will enable you, will help you, will empower you, will educate you to take that charge. And we wish you for a successful recovery, especially when managing conditions such as liver disease, heart disease, neurological disorders, diabetes, and autoimmune diseases. We empathize that it's complex, and as you become scientists of your own body, you can reduce the complexity one variable at a time and be aware that what works for you, what is best for you, and what doesn't work for you, and you can take a very science-backed, evidence-based, and more importantly, your feedback-based, your response from your body and symptoms-based actions. So what I'll say is always stay in close communication with your healthcare team and follow specific recommendations tailored to your health and needs. And together we can ensure that you have a safe and effective recovery process. And in order to make the safe and recovery process, we have made two resources. One is the user guide and another is the checklist. So user guide is designed to help you follow all the process easily. It is structured to guide patients through the immediate post-procedure period, focusing on crucial aspects of recovery, diet, activity, and medication management. It ensures that patients are well informed and can actively participate in their own recovery and long-term health maintenance. And with the checklist, serves as an actionable tool to help patients navigate the crucial hours and days following a colonoscopy, ensuring that recovery is monitored, symptoms are managed, and any potential complications are addressed promptly. As we wrap up T+2 hours post-procedure episode, thank you for joining us today on the T+2 hours podcast procedure episode of our colonoscopy preparation podcast, which also is Colonoscopy Preparation Timeline Handbook. We have navigated through crucial information about recovery, focusing on everything from your immediate post-procedure care to long-term health management. Your journey through recovery is as vital as preparation and procedure itself. So today we discuss the timeline for your recovery, how to manage a diet, reintroduce foods, and importance of monitoring your physical activities. We also covered how to manage medications, what symptoms to watch as you recover. For those with chronic conditions, we provided specific guidelines to ensure your recovery is tailored to your needs. By now, you should feel equipped with the knowledge and tools to handle post-procedural care and recovery confidently. Remember, the steps you take now are crucial for ensuring a smooth transition back to your daily life and maintaining long-term health. So in our next episode, we'll explore what to expect in weeks following your colonoscopy, including follow-up appointments based on your findings. We'll also provide guidance on returning to work, resuming more intense physical activities, and managing ongoing symptoms. And a final reminder, please refer to the user guide and checklist provided to help you through these first critical days after your procedure. And remember, if you experience any significant symptoms or if something doesn't feel right, don't hesitate to contact your healthcare provider. Recovery is a personal journey and you are not alone in it. Our series aims to support and inform you every step of the way. Thank you for trusting us to guide you through this process. Take care, follow your recovery plan, and I look forward to having you with us the next time, ready to move forward with your health journey. Until then, stay safe and be well.